Hi everybody, so today we're gonna talk to Matt Lebris. Matt is a born and raised New Yorker who inevitably caught the hustler's spirit that fills his hometown streets. Matt has two black belts, the non-traditional black belts to say the least. They are success and failure. For the past 2.5 years, Matt has worked directly alongside Daymond John of Shark Tank. He has also been blessed with the opportunity to impact lives through speaking engagements across the country. Today, you can find Matt hosting the Decoding Success podcast, building his legacy through impacting lives and spearheading branding initiatives for individuals and businesses. And I couldn't be happier to welcome Matt to the show today. Hi, Matt. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. That's one thing I definitely want to get across. I am super grateful for being here.
I've been following you. This is to me like meeting a celebrity. I am excited that you're here, and we talked a little bit about what we're gonna talk about today, and I can't wait to hear all about your story. But before we continue, for people who don't know who you are, Matt Lebris, tell us a little bit of your background and what you do.
For sure. So, Matt Lebris is an agent of change. I'll start off by saying that my main goal in life, and I call it my North Star goal, is to positively impact the lives of 1 billion individuals. Now, for the past 2.5 years, I've worked with Daymond John of Shark Tank. Absolute amazing opportunity. On top of that, though, there was always something that needed to be done, a little bit more. And it's actually not a little bit, it's a lot of it, right? And for the past year and a half, on top of working with Daymond, I've been traveling the country speaking at corporations, organizations, colleges, universities, seminars, workshops, and things of that nature to be able to fulfill my passion and that guiding light, that North Star of being able to impact the lives of 1 billion people. And on top of that, I just launched a podcast. I'm always networking, meeting amazing individuals like yourself. So the list goes on. I could talk for days.
Now, and I'm super curious about your journey. We have a lot of people who are listening who are in a full time job, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they hate their job. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have a miserable life. In fact, that's probably what's wrong with it, that it's a very comfortable life, but they know they have dreams, they have bigger dreams for themselves. Now, Matt, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag right now. You are 26 years old. All right. This, as soon as I found this out, it blew my mind because you are actually a very accomplished individual and there's a lot that we can learn from you. And you have just started a new pivot of your business over the past couple months. So I wanted to bring you in so you can tell us a little bit about what that journey of deciding what to do was like, right? Because you're working for Daymond John. This is a big star. This is a really sexy job that you have right there. So how do you go from having that great life to saying, you know what, there's something else I'm meant to be doing. I'm going to switch and I'm going to focus on this. How do you make that decision?
Well, I'll start off by saying that it's not easy. Let's keep it real. Life is not always peaches and cream, and that was probably one of, if not the hardest decisions I've ever had to make in my life. Now, to go back just a couple more years before I linked up with Daymond, I was actually a business owner. I was monetizing my personal brand from 17 to 24 years old within the nightlife industry. So I was an owner of my own business, and I knew what it was like to work for myself. But at the same time, that was my first job out of college with Daymond, like absolute amazing opportunity. So I couldn't not take that up. I had to take that experience and own it for what it was. Now, when it came to leaving Daymond, and I do want to, let it be known that I still do work with Daymond, just not in the capacity I once did. And like I said, it wasn't easy. Going up to Daymond, who is someone that I absolutely admire, I aspire to be someone of his stature in my lifetime and in my own way, according to my personal brand, Matt Lebris. And it was honestly the hardest decision I had to make and the hardest conversation I've had to have with an individual, because I'm going up to my mentor and saying, Daymond, I feel like I'm not happy here. I feel like, all these things. And I had, like you said, had to let the cat out of the bag, So how did I do that? One, it was to, first of all, be clear on it. And I let this decision sit inside of me for too long. And I'll be honest, I let it sit inside of me for too long. It was from about August of 2018 to about the beginning of October. And when it finally hit me was at 3 a.m. in the morning. I woke up out of my sleep, and the first thing that crossed my mind was to quit my job.
Yeah.
Literally, that was the sign that I needed. And I said, okay, this was the first step. Make the deadline. When are you going to do this? You can't keep running away from it. When are you going to do it? Put put it on your calendar. Seriously, put it on your calendar. Like, this is the day you're doing it. If you need to find a way to build up some confidence, to build up the courage, right? Because those are the things that it really takes.
Yeah.
I feel like we focus on the fear of the lack of security and the lack of job stability and whatnot, right? Like, we fear losing all of these things, but at the same time, we could also create them. And that's what I started to focus on. I started to focus on the positives, and that's exactly how I did it. There's no secret formula to it. It was just like, you know what? Take the action.
Yeah. And actually, a lot of people would argue it wasn't too long at all. It was what? A couple of months from the moment you decided until the moment you did it. There's so many people out there who spend years, who spend decades of their lives never actually making that leap. So a lot of credit to you for not staying comfortable for too long. So let me ask you something. While you were working, I want to dive a little bit deeper into what were those feelings that you were having? What was telling you that you needed to go off and do something on your own versus going off and getting another job? I mean, you're not happy, get another job. That's what most people do. What made you special in that you thought, I'm going to go off on my own? What was that drive?
Well, I think it goes all the way back to one of my favorite quotes, which is by Peter Drucker. Now, the quote is, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Now, you can very much so create the future inside of a company, but you could also be limited, right? Now, you're limitless when you're at the helm of your own company. And I guess the best way to put it is that I don't like being limited, right?
Yeah.
So, in regards to that, I could have very much so went and took another job, I very much so could have made that move. But at the end of the day, I just knew that my passion, what fulfilled me the most. And, a very quick story was the first time I ever public spoke, my first public speaking engagement. I remember I thought it was the worst thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And this is while I was working with Daymond. It was the absolute worst thing in the world. And it was so bad that all 65 of the attendees came up to me and told me how great it was,
Yeah.
and right then and there, it was almost as if a girl gave me butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, like, that was the feeling I felt inside of me. So that was the start. That was really the start. And it was like, all right, cool. Like, I'm onto something, and over time, things just kept building up. And I realized that's what I wanted in life. So I identified what I really wanted, and what I was currently doing, they were not aligned.
Yeah.
They were not aligned. And when I was able to identify the disconnect, I was able to make the change,
Yeah.
so that's where it started.
Yeah. So now let me ask you, since you've been at this for just a few months, all right? We're not talking to you 10 years after that quitting story. We're talking to you just a few months after that quitting story. So I want to know, and I know a lot of people are going to be wondering, wait a minute, you know what? All that sounds great, Matt, right? But you probably had like $500,000 saved up, you and your best friend, the billionaires. And, but that's not me. I have bills to pay. I don't have money to just quit my job and start a business. So I wanted to ask you, like, in reality, like, how does it work? If somebody comes to you and they're like, you know what, I don't have money to start a business, and that's not even money to invest in a business. Like, I have bills to pay, so I need to have an income, so I can't do this. What would you tell them to encourage them to think a little differently?
You need to tap into what's called the power of broke. And I'm not saying broke in a sense where you literally have no money, because I'm going to keep it real. I wasn't in the best financial situation to just get up and leave my job. I have bills too. And in fact, I actually got rid of a car that was over $500 a month, because I was transitioning from one lifestyle to the next.
Mhm.
Like, I took those precautionary, I guess, moves, you can call them, and I knew that my lifestyle had to change because my means of life were changing. As you say, I was hanging out with, Daymond John, a multimillionaire. Now, at the same time, I'm not a multimillionaire yet. I'm not, but I aspire to be one. So if I made those smart financial decisions, I'll be able to stay on that track, as opposed to falling more behind while starting a business. Now, in regards to starting a business with not having the necessary funds, or whatever the case is, listen, you got to tap into the power of broke. And
Mhm.
what's the power of broke? You need to own what you do have, right? Like, if you're talented in some capacity, if you know that you're confident in being able to achieve success in this type of business, like start, literally just start. Like, I don't know what that means in regards to each person that's listening right now. It differs based on everyone's situation. But for me, what it meant was, all right, cool, Matt, start putting out content. Social media is free, right?
Right.
Social media is free. Like, you could advertise yourself for free, right? So there are so many options out there for individuals to be able to take action, to get the ball rolling, to get your first client, to be able to receive your first source of income by owning your own business. And then, okay, you can put that somewhere else to continuously grow and move up the ladder.
Yeah. And I so want to dive into your speaking engagements because I have like another story about that. Like, I would love to get into that. But before we move on, I want you to talk to people about having a vision for their life, right? Because you would have never done this if you didn't think that there was something bigger out there for you. Can you tell us a little bit of what your vision is and how that has impacted the steps that you're taking?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it goes back to what I said earlier about not having limitations. You know, there's this amazing book out there. It's literally up here on my shelf. It's called The Magic of Thinking Big by Dr. Daniel Schwartz. Absolutely phenomenal book, you know, and we're living in a society where we are put in a box by other people, and that affects us mentally. You know, we let what other people think about us, you know, and these are the comforts, right? You know, we're scared to be wrong. We're scared what people are going to say about us to our face and behind our backs. Like, we have these fears, and that in itself, like, makes us do this, right? Like, we literally put ourselves in a box, and something clicked in me, and I was just like, you know what? I don't care. Like, I just don't care if I'm ever wrong. In fact, like, if I'm wrong, I'm going to learn. And I adapted to that mindset, you know, and when it came to putting out content and things of that nature, I was just like, you know what? I just don't care. So to be able to have that vision, where did that vision come from? It came from actually inside of me. You know, I didn't find it by searching for it on the internet. You know, it came from knowing who Matt Lebris is and who Matt Lebris wants to become in life, you know, and I can't say that I found my goal of wanting to impact 1 billion lives on the internet or anything of that nature. But what I did realize was through experience that Matt Lebris actually likes to impact lives and add value to people and do things like we're doing right now. Like, this is what is fun for me. This is, you know, like this is what it is. And that, you know, and that's just exactly what I kept going after. So I said to myself, all right, Matt, build a plan. How can you continuously impact lives? You can't speak 365 days a year, not yet at least. You just can't, right? So what else can I do? I could start a podcast. I could put social media content out there. I can write ebooks, you know, I could hop on other people's podcasts, like whatever the case is. Like, there's ways to build that plan around your vision. And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah. And I commend you for it, because so many of us don't even get to have that vision because of exactly what you said. We are all in a box. Like, I grew up watching very successful corporate parents show me that the only way to be successful is to stay at your job for 30 years. The company will take care of you, and just start amassing riches until one day you can take luxury vacations with your children. And I saw that, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just go and do that then. And then suddenly I'm starting to feel that dichotomy, that inner fight, inner battle inside me. And I'm like, this is not what I want. So can I ask you a little bit of your personal experience? What were your parents like? What was your family life like? And what did success mean to you growing up?
Oh, for sure. My parents still don't know what I do. Literally.
Same here. I can totally relate to that. Yeah.
I can't tell you how it doesn't bother me anymore. But for, you know, very similar situation. Both of my parents worked corporate their entire lives. They're still working today. You know, like, my parents are both at work right now.
Yeah.
And this is work for me, you know, like, you know, there's that difference, and they don't understand it. And that's okay. And I think that's another thing that holds people back, because they want to make their parents happy. Now, at the end of the day, my parents are my why. Like, my parents are my why. But at the same time, like, we're just in a different world. You know, so I totally agree with you there. Now, to answer your second question, like, how do I define success? You know, I think the beauty of this question is that everyone can have their own definition of success. Like, and this is one thing that I learned from being able to talk with individuals like yourself. Um, to me, success comes down to a couple words. One is fulfillment, one is happiness, one is growth. Um, and the list really goes on, like just those three are like the main focus. It's like when I'm hitting all those three, I'm successful. Like me today, I'm successful. I might not be in someone else's opinion of success because I'm not on television. I'm not, I don't have a million followers, like whatever the case is, that might be their way to define success. But my way to define success, those three things that I just named, and there's a couple more, but I'm successful just off that.
Do you feel like your definition of success has changed from when you were little to what it is now?
Oh, for sure. When I was little, success to me was being in the major leagues playing baseball. I'm not doing that anymore. I had a very horrific accident that ruined that dream. But at the same time, like my definition of success actually changes. I don't want to say often, but it develops. Like
Yeah.
it continuously develops as I continuously develop,
Yeah.
and how I define success maybe a year ago is totally different than how I define it now.
Yeah. So why don't we dive into, okay, you've decided to quit your job, you gave yourself a deadline, you are going to have a plan. I want to dive into making money, right? Doing something that you're good at. So I want you to, as much as you can, tell us a little bit about what your business plan is. How are you planning on making money? What are you going to be your revenue streams in this new era of your life?
Oh, for certain, and this, I'll keep it real. This is one thing that I'm still trying to figure out day by day. And I think that was one of the most beautiful things that happened as I quit. I was a hustler my entire life. In fact, I worked 5 jobs at one point, which ended up resulting in me failing out of college. But at the same time, I was hustling. And what happened when I left my job just recently was the fact that hustler started to come out again. And I started to realize, how am I going to make this money? Now, I have three main things that I focus on. One is public speaking. So we're only limited to 24 hours in a day. I wish we had more. I wish we had 48. Like,
And if we had 48, we would be complaining we don't have 56. So let's be real about that too.
that's true. That's true. But so the first is public speaking. Now, I have only been speaking publicly for the past year and a half. So I am still in a very much so beginner phase. And I don't let my ego get ahead of me, and I actually don't have an ego. I don't have a status. I don't have anything. Like I said, my goal is to impact lives. So with that said, I still do speaking engagements for free every now and then. If the opportunity comes about and it's a school or a university, whatever the case is, and they're like, Matt, like, we really want you to come here, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you know what? Cool. Can you promise me that it's recorded on video? Can you promise me that it's written up in your school newspaper? Like, those exchanges right there are going to supplement my revenue stream down the line. To be able to put out content on social media in regards to me speaking publicly is huge, so that is one source that I'm monetizing. I do monetize speaking engagements. When I speak for corporations, they do not get any discounts or anything. I know they have money. They're paying me what they need to pay. So that's one way I make money. The next way I make money is through my podcast. I didn't think that I would be able to make money off of a podcast anytime soon. I really didn't. And this wasn't even the goal. Like, it literally wasn't even the goal. It just so happened.
Yeah.
And I was just like, all right, cool. Like, I'll go with it. I'm
Yeah.
not kidding. So that's my other way. And the third way, which has probably been the most difficult for me because I haven't allocated time to it, is my branding services.
Yeah.
Now, I'm doing something that I'm trying to get out of bloody water. And what I mean by that is that the space is crowded. A lot of people are into digital marketing now. A lot of people are personal branding coaches. A lot of people are this, that, and the other. And I'm trying to swim out of that bloody water. So what I've done is, unfortunately, not allocated enough time to this. And that's probably my number one flaw, because I'm so focused on fulfilling my passions and things of that nature in regards to the public speaking and the podcast, that I'm not focusing on my actual business.
Yeah.
Like, I only filed for my LLC last week.
Yeah.
And I've been not working with Daymond for 3 months, or whatever the case is. So like, I am my own slacker. And what anyone can take from that is like, listen, if you have a vision for something, just freaking take action,
Yeah.
figure it out along the way. And that's the complete opposite of what I've been doing. Now, in regards to that whole ego trip and things of that nature that I mentioned earlier, what I have been doing, and this is something that anyone can do, I've been creating content for individuals that I want to work with for free and sending it to them in my introductory email.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, anyone can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely anyone can find any means to start a business with $0. You
Yeah.
don't need money, right? I don't need money to be able to create content. Granted, I need my laptop, I need Adobe Premiere, right? I need to be able to access interviews of them or whatever the case is to be able to provide them content and things of that nature. But that is exactly what I've been doing. I have not monetized that just yet. I'm still in the process of locking down clients.
Yeah.
I am freelancing for a couple other ones, but now I'm bringing them under the umbrella of my company once my LLC is established, and I'm going from there. So my hands are full.
Yeah, and I have to say a couple things here. We are our own worst critics, right? And I hear you, because for the past 3 months, you have not been sitting on your hands. You have a great podcast. You recently interviewed John Lee Dumas, and to me, that was a huge inspiration. John Lee Dumas, if anybody knows, he's the host of Entrepreneur on Fire, and it was a great interview, and it really puts you on the map. You have been really going after your dream. So I have to say a couple things about this. Number one, that you have not been sitting on your hands by any means. And number two is that the things that you have been doing is because the inspiration has been driving you, right? You wanted to start the podcast and you want to go on speaking engagements. So you go and you have taken massive action. Granted, you have this branding agency that is just in its infancy, but you are taking action. So, and that is one thing that is super important for people to understand. Everybody listening to this, yes, you can start a business with zero money, right? And number two is follow that inspiration. I tell people, because I talk to moms all the time, moms who work full time, and they're like, well, my life is already full. I have zero time. And I'm like, no such thing. If you are being followed, if you are being dragged by your intuition, like by by your inspiration, by the ankles, you make the time. To go back, I remember one time when I really wanted to create a mobile app, and I talked to a friend and we had this great idea, and I spent that entire night until 3 in the morning, and I had to get up for work the next day until 3 in the morning designing an app. So what I'm here to say is that you will find the time if you have that inspiration. That's exactly what you've been doing for the past 3 months. So a lot of credit to you. And so what I wanted to ask you, thank you so much for sharing that, like where the revenue streams are. This is a lot of people have a lot of trouble, like, well, how am I going to monetize this? This is how. Follow the inspiration, take action, forget about the money for now, just go and do it. I myself started my business by going down to my local diner and making their website for free. And I posted that online, and I started to get word of mouth referrals that I still get to this day. It's been 7 years since that. So yes. Wow. You can start a business with zero money. You just have to take action. So let me ask you something. Daymond John, what were you doing for him, and how is that feeding into your ideas for the branding agency you want to create?
For certain, and I was doing so much for him. It was really awesome. The main thing I was doing was managing his content, management of the development and management of the team that was creating it, which was really cool. I myself am not a quote unquote video editor, although just being exposed to it, I was able to pick up the skills. Like when you throw yourself into the fire, sometimes you just find ways to get yourself out of it. And that's exactly what I was doing, which was really cool. So the management and the development of content, which was really awesome. And that actually supplemented my main goal of being able to impact people's lives, or 1 billion people's lives, because I was impacting them through someone else's content, which, I didn't really think of until like after I left, and I was like, wow, I really was getting after that. But that was the main thing. I project managed his most recent book, which is called Rise and Grind. It was a New York Times bestseller, and that was an absolute amazing project because it was totally full spectrum in regards to biz dev, sales, networking, like just so many things were incorporated into that one project It was very stressful.
Mhm.
I'll let that be known. It was definitely
Yeah.
very stressful, but it was totally awesome. Before I left, we were working on the launch of his new podcast, which is being released, which is super cool.
Yeah.
And honestly, just so many random things that would fall on my plate, which was the
Mhm.
beauty of it, because not everyone that worked there didn't have the same title. No one actually had the same title. So to
Mhm.
work for him, you had to create your own title.
Mhm.
And that made the job even more challenging and gave you even more opportunities for growth. And in return, you obviously got more work, and just totally amazing.
So, and I have to say, stop right here and say, if anybody wants to see the type of content that Matt is talking about, you should follow him on Instagram. And he'll tell you all the other social media outlets that he's in. But on Instagram, you can see all the quality of his videos. You can see his stories. You can see all of the stuff I've been following is at Matt_Lebris, Lebris. And I've been following and I've been loving it. I've been soaking all the content, and you're doing an amazing job there.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So now let me ask you something. There is this concept in our industry, right, being online, of leaving a legacy. And I wanted to ask you, what does that mean to you?
I just want to be remembered, and the best way for me to answer this is to give you examples, and perfect examples are Napoleon Hill, right? Um, an example of someone that's leaving his legacy right now that people are going to remember because he's an actual living legend is Tony Robbins.
Oh, yeah.
Like being able to positively impact that many lives keeps you around for many, many years to come, and I just want to make history, like I want to be known as someone that is of that stature and of that impact. So the best way to answer that is literally through example. Like I can't put it into words because there's so much excitement and things of that nature inside of me that I can't even think about words, but just simply examples.
So let me ask you, because we're going to wrap up soon, and I want to make sure that everybody listening walks away with a little bit of personal advice from you. So if somebody who's listening, they're sitting in their car, they're in their commute, they're thinking, I know that I don't want to stay at my job forever. I am having trouble really figuring out what to do next. So I've ended up just not doing anything. I've been having these feelings for the past 2 years and I don't know what to do about it. I may have an idea for a business or not. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. Matt, what can you tell me?
I'm going to tell you a couple things because I can't just leave it at one. The first is really identifying what you love. That's where it starts. Identify your why, identify the thing that you can do for endless hours. And, the way to find that is to actually have experiences, right? You don't know if you like pizza until you try pizza. Like you don't know if you like chicken parm until you try chicken parm. So you need to get different tastes of things. And if you already know what you love, that's perfect. You're already ahead of the ball. Now, what I will say in regards to actually taking that leap and, taking that leap of faith, and what I like to say is, you're jumping off a cliff and you're so confident that you're thinking about building the plane on the way down. You don't even have the plane yet. You're just ready to go. Like, just know that life is not happening to you. Life is happening for you. So anything along that journey, right? We're human beings. We're going to go through challenges. We're going to face failures. We're going to make mistakes. Like, that's okay. But what I will say is that the events you go through, the outcome is all determined by the perspective you have. And how you can sum that up is events plus perspective equals the outcome. There's going to be challenges. You have to accept that. You have to accept what's to come and just do it. Do it. Make the change. Like if you want to see change for the better, it starts with yourself. You have to do it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Matt. And how can people find you? How can people follow you and follow your journey?
Totally. But first, I want to say thank you. I appreciate it. I am most definitely grateful. So before I say anything else, I want to, stress that again. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. I am literally everywhere. I'll keep it real. I'm everywhere. You can check me out on my website. I do have a free ebook on personal branding. It's just MATTLEBRIS.com. I am all over Instagram and Twitter at MATT_LEBRIS. Or if you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, it's just my name, Matt Lebris.
Awesome. Matt, this has been a treat for me and for everybody listening. Thank you so much for coming and hope to have you again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Corporate Trailblazers podcast with Ina Coveney. And this is a part where I ask you to subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already, and to go to iTunes and leave me a review and a star rating. It really does help people find the show when you do that, and I would really appreciate it. You can also connect with me on Instagram at Ina Coveney and on Facebook at facebook.com/female trailblazer. All right, guys, I hope to see you there. Bye.